Okay, so I'm back to talk shit with you, and clearly I liked the no makeup thing because it just makes everything easier. Because I get to do two things at once. And what is better than doing two things at once during Gemini season? Nothing. The answer is nothing. So, okay, I guess maybe 2 weeks ago, I was emailing with a friend who I was having a bit of a disagreement with, which, don't judge me, I have Scorpio in the 11th house and Pluto and Venus there. So my friendships are pretty intense and, they are what they are. People must love me in some or other way because I have the same friends that I've had since middle school. So I must not be doing that badly. So anyway, the point is that in this friendship, in this conversation that I was having, my friend, I think we could still call her my friend. I think she was trying to make a dig at me, or she was trying to insult me. And the way my emotional autism works is that I don't always know when people are trying to insult me. So I will sometimes think that they mean it in a positive way, just kind of like how I took this insult. So what she said to me was, Denisse, I hate to say this, but you switch up even worse than a Gemini. And I was like, does she mean that in a good way? Is she trying to say I'm changing? I was like, oh my God, because I've never in my life received that feedback. If anything, I've always had the feedback that I'm always the same. I just generally have been the same sort of person forever. And that's actually not a flex. That's actually I don't think that's a good thing. I think that we're supposed to grow and evolve and change. And if the feedback that you're receiving is that you don't change, that's probably a bad sign. So when she said this to me, when she was just you switch up worse than a Gemini, I was like, stop. I was like, no, do I? Obviously it was through email, so I couldn't say that. But I thought to myself, and I was like, wow, I must be changing. And that is what inspired the topic of today's video, because I am a famous Scorpio and Gemini lover. And that's just probably because I'm a contrarian. But as you guys probably know, Geminis and Scorpios are the most hated signs of all of the zodiac. And my little, if you hear a bunch of random ass noise, that's my dog, she was totally quiet. I think she has Leo placements in her chart because she was totally quiet until she heard me talking. She was like, you're trying to make a video? Oh, no. No, ma'am, you're not going to make a video at peace. You're not going to make a video at peace. So now she's asking to go out. But I just set up the vibe, right? And if I get up, the likelihood of me hitting myself on this drawer on my knee is really high. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, she's fine, right? She's gone out several times today. So whatever. My friend said this, it inspired the topic of this video. I love Geminis, but what I realized is that people actually hate Geminis. And so I realized that my Venus is in the 11th house. I tend to like things that people don't like just because I'm a contrarian. And if somebody says that they don't like something, I'm going to be intrigued. I'm going to be oh, interesting. Why? Why is it that you don't like this thing? Oh, a lot of people don't like it. I'm just I'm even more intrigued. So maybe that is why I like Geminis, but I don't care why. I'm going to tell you why people actually hate Geminis. And it's actually a really silly reason. So the thing is that people tend to project things onto others. And the thing is that Geminis are covered in Teflon. So nothing sticks to them. You could try to project whatever you want. And the Gemini will they'll hold on to that for a second. But the minute that starts to feel heavy or that starts to feel untrue to who they are, Gemini will drop it, and they do not care because Gemini understands that no one is responsible for somebody else's emotional state. Geminis do not care what other people are doing or what other people's opinions of them are. They're just yeah, no, this doesn't feel like me. I'm out. I'm going to switch up. I'm going to switch up like a Gemini. And really, that is not insulting at all. I think it is the beauty of being a Gemini is being able to not only evolve and change and grow, but change according to the environment, new information, new experiences that you're having. Who says that you have to be the same person forever? Sometimes being the same person is harmful. Sometimes you actually should change. And actually, if you're not changing, that would be a bad thing. So I think we should all take a page from the Gemini book and freaking change and switch up worse than a Gemini. Because if what is holding you together with a certain person is something negative that you want to change about yourself, then it is in all your benefit to switch up like a Gemini, baby. Because let's just say that a person is attracted to you or bound to you or likes interacting with you because you're a pushover and you always let them do whatever they want to do and you're just kind of along for the ride because for whatever reason, astrological, maybe you're a Neptune, maybe you're a Libra, maybe you are a Pisces, a Cancer, maybe you're just a freaking pushover because life taught you that that was the way that you were gonna, be loved and appreciated. So you learned to adapt and to be how other people wanted you to be. You didn't learn to assert yourself, to stand up for yourself, to have needs and wants and rights, right? So that is why that person likes you. But what if one day you decide that, like, I don't want that to be who I am anymore. Should you keep being the same person because that's who you've always been? This is who I am. This is who I've always been. Should you be that same person because people in your life want you to be that way? Or should you switch up like a Gemini? I'm of the opinion that I think you should switch up like a Gemini. As soon as you realize that something that you're doing is harming you, I think you should switch up like a Gemini. And that is the beauty, not only of Geminis, but of Gemini season. Because it invites us to consider where it is that we can have that opportunity to switch up and what that would mean and what that would do for us. Because what Gemini does is it creates lightness because you cannot, I like to say that Geminis move through the world like a little kid running through a candy store. And imagine if you're like a little kid and they tell you hey, we're gonna let you into this candy store and you could touch everything you want in 30 minutes. You can have as much as you want in 30 minutes. But after those 30 minutes, you're going to have to get out of here. So what Gemini does is they try to grab everything. They're just grabbing, putting their hands in every single thing. That is how a Gemini runs through life. They're trying to get into every little nook and cranny and crevice and this flies over here. They're interested in everything. They're just so endlessly curious, right? And in order to be able to be so mobile, to be so light on your feet, to be so dexterous, emotionally, intellectually, in every single way that they are, in order to do that, they need to travel light. So what I mean by that is imagine, keep that image of that little kid running through the candy store. If that little kid is picking up, if that little kid is a Taurus, starting to hoard and hold on to if that little kid's a Cancer and can't let go, imagine they're holding on, then they're not going to be able to see everything in the candy store because they're holding on to everything, right? So think of all of the retentive signs like Taurus and Scorpio and Cancer. Those guys, they cannot experience everything because they are so focused on a few things. Taurus is going to go in there and be I want a few chocolates. I want the best chocolates. What is the highest quality chocolate that you have in here? That's what I want. And that's it. I'm good. These high quality chocolates, that's all I need, right? But Gemini is not going to do that. Gemini is going to be licking everything and just running and just an absolute madman in a candy store. So following that same allegory or that same imagery, I think that it is beneficial to, because our ego, our persona, the way that we are personified in this life, it is only a projection of who we are. This is not who we actually are. I'm sorry. I feel I'm going too deep even for myself right now. But I just feel if this persona that you've created, if this essence that you are projecting out into the world, it's not the totality of who you are. So if you change it, what is the harm in changing it? There is no harm. If that's not really fully you, then really what damage is it if you change? Granted, yes, it can be difficult to be in relationships with Geminis. Yes, I too have been a victim of a Gemini Venus switching up on me. I know what that was like. But the older that I've gotten, if you've ever watched Love is Blind, the last season, The way that guy, what was his name? AD, and I don't remember. The girl's name was AD. She was really pretty, and I was convinced that guy was in love with her until he switched up at the very end and couldn't marry her. That guy has to have Gemini in his chart, or third house, because like he seemed so convinced, but he was always up in his head, and AD was always like trying to talk. AD's a Scorpio. She was always trying to like, hey man, let me remind you, let me convince you that like you're in love with me. So if you find yourself having to do that, it's probably a bad sign. But that's an entirely different video about dating Geminis, because this video is about how we do have the liberty of switching up, because as we learn more about ourselves, as we have more experiences, as we intake more information, like a Gemini does, like through the candy store, we have the opportunity to change and evolve and grow. But as I was saying, is this kind of terrifying if you're a Cancer, if you are a Taurus, if you are a Scorpio? Is it kind of scary? Because a little less so for Scorpio, because even though Scorpios do like to kind of know what's going on with their partner, I feel like Scorpios are kind of like ballsy, way more ballsy than like, for example, a Cancer would be. A Cancer has this like need to feel like they know what the hell is going on. They don't want to be surprised. And so, as I was saying, it can be destabilizing to be with a Gemini and have them switch up, right? Evolve, change, shift, because they can go from one thing and then they'll say they're going to do, you know, that scene where Bart, I'll try to look for it on the internet. You know, like that scene in The Simpsons where Bart is on the bicycle and he's got the blinkers on and he's like saying like he's going to go to this side, but then at the end he goes to the other side. That is Gemini. They can do that. Not only because they're tricksters and they like to do the opposite of what you thought just for the hell of it, but if it's something more serious, it doesn't have to be so like, it's not a malicious thing. It is because they have so many thoughts and they consider so many perspectives and ideas and information that they want to make sure that they make the right choice, right? So they're like back and forth, back and forth. And that does at times cause them to switch up, right? And so as a partner of a Gemini, can that be destabilizing and terrifying and horrific? Yeah, I could see that. But at the same time, I think that especially that's why Geminis work out together, or like a Gemini and a Sagittarius, or the mutable signs, maybe not Virgo, but the mutable signs do give each other freedom, because that is what mutability is about. It's about shifting. And no, I'm not a Gemini. I have a stellium in Sagittarius, so I am mutable. And maybe that's where that comes from, because I have no reason to be acting like a Gemini right now. But where I was going with this is that it can be scary for people dating a Gemini who aren't themselves Geminis and who aren't comfortable with like a shift in a person's behavior or persona or personality, whatever. But we don't owe it to anybody to be the same person that we were yesterday, especially if we're trying to change, if we're trying to evolve, if we're trying to, I don't even want to use the word better. Like, I'm trying to be a better person. Better to who? Better in what way, right? Maybe that's not the correct word, but if you're trying to do something differently with your life, you don't owe it to anybody to be the same person you always have been. You don't, because you will regret not changing. You will regret not reaching your full potential, but exploring another thing that maybe you haven't explored before. And like, God damn it, maybe I haven't explored letting myself have freaking boundaries. And now I want to have boundaries, and people who don't like boundaries are mad at me. And that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. That's okay. It's not my responsibility to make other people feel good. That's not my job. Probably my job is making myself feel good. And maybe the people in my family, I think it can be difficult to have a parent who's a Gemini, because that is where, like, this is why I find also that Geminis take so long to have kids, because of the responsibility. And as I said, like, Geminis like to travel lightly through life because they want to explore so many things. And traveling lightly is difficult when you have the responsibility of children. So is it kind of hard to be a parent and a Gemini. Yeah, it's hard to be light when you have to have like the responsibility of a little life, you know, on your shoulders. So that's why that could be difficult. But other than like, you know, you're responsible for your kids. You're possibly have like great responsibility for your spouse, maybe for your closest and dearest friends. But, you know, at the end of the day, I feel that ultimately, like, we don't owe anyone anything. And I think that we should have the freedom to change and evolve and grow in whatever way we see fit. Maybe we're going to fuck up. Maybe the way that we're evolving is like in a bad way. And maybe in a few years, we'll regret it. We'll figure out that like, oh shit, maybe that was a bad vibe. Maybe I shouldn't have been acting that way. But like, bro, like you got to try it out for yourself, because then you won't have any regrets, and you'll know that you tried everything. You tried everything you possibly could. You explored everything you wanted to, and no one can tell you shit because you lived it, right? And that's the part that as a Sagittarius is very important to me. Like, not only just being myself, but doing what I want to do and not being told what to do. So yeah, be a fucking Gemini. Switch up on people. Switch up on yourself. The moment you realize that you are not, I love this one quote that it says, suffering is refusing to learn past the current moment, past the present moment. So Gemini doesn't do that. That's why Geminis don't suffer that much, because Geminis are just like, oh, okay, like this just happened. Okay, you know, like, and they'll just like shift, right? They'll shift. And I want to be a person who suffers less because I learned from my lessons. I learn from the present moment. I'm trying to, because the moment you think you know everything, like a Sagittarius sometimes tends to do, the moment you think you know everything, that is when you stop learning, right? And I never want to stop learning. I want to always learn forever and ever and ever until I'm an old lady, right? So yeah, I'm going to switch up like a Gemini, and I encourage everybody to switch up like a Gemini too, or like anything, like switch up like a mutable sign would, right? And I think that don't feel pressured by other people to remain, oh, like I could think of another example of like, I have a friend who is a big, like kind Neptune person who was always appreciated for her kindness. And, she did people would take advantage of her kindness, and she changed. And I remember, I love her very much, and people would tell her like, oh, you're changing, you've changed, you're not who you used to be anymore. And it really hurt her because she's a Libra, and she likes for people to like her. She likes for people to appreciate her. But you know what happens when you just do things for the sake of others is that eventually you grow resentful and you get tired of it. And she grew tired of it. And you know what? She changed. And maybe she's who inspired me to change myself. She's done a lot of growing in the past few years, and she's freaking amazing. And I aspire to grow that much and to change that much. I don't want to be the same person I was yesterday or the day before or a year ago. I want to get better. I want to feel better. I want to, so this is your invitation to switch up like a Gemini. And the last thing I'll say in this video, I feel like I'm not even going to finish doing my makeup. So I'm going to look the same when I started the video and when I finished it. Oh my God, I'm going to try to hurry up. So yeah, I really think that we should have the courage to be disliked. Have the courage to be disliked. Have the courage to change, because it takes courage to change, to no longer fit into the image, into the projection that somebody has placed upon you. Especially when, as I keep saying, like, if it's not your child who's telling you like, hey, you're my dad, I don't want you to act that way, you should probably listen to your child, because, that's your child, man. But other than that, like, no, you're not beholden to anyone. No one is responsible for anybody else's happiness, or like you aren't responsible for holding somebody's like concept of reality together. Like you're not. So, whatever, switch it up like a Gemini would, because if you don't, you'll say the same and people will be like, you know what? she was very consistent. But what if you're consistently unhappy? What if you're consistently making the same mistake over and over again, like letting people walk all over you, or letting people take advantage of you, or letting people use you as a sounding board and never listening to your problems, but you're always listening to theirs, whatever. This is not indicative of like my issue. Like my issue is, as I keep saying, is boundaries. I had issues with boundaries. And I finally, at my ripe old age, I finally was just like, oh my goodness, I have boundaries now, and I have so much more energy and time to do the things that I want. If you didn't watch my previous video, then I'm probably going to make an entire video about boundaries, because like that's my current obsession. But yeah, like switch up, because you can open up an entire different version of reality for yourself that could be way better, not only for you, but for everyone around you. Because the people who love you, the people who love who you are, the essence of your being, they're going to be around, because they are not the kind of people, because like when somebody loves you and loves you who like on a deep level, they don't love you for the things that you do for them. They love you for who you are. It doesn't matter what you do or don't do for them. And so those are the kind of people that you want around anyway, right? You don't want somebody who just wants you because you're always doing favors for them, or you're always making them feel good about themselves, whatever it is, right? Whatever selfish reason people can have. And okay, just to finalize this point about Geminis, I just want to say that I think the main reason why people hate Geminis so much is because Geminis have the courage to do what other people don't. So other people would feel guilty, would feel bad, would feel entrapped in the projections that they've created for themselves, or that they've allowed other people to place on them. And Geminis do not care, because they like to go against the grain anyway. They rather things be, they like to keep it interesting. Variety of this is the spice of life for a Gemini. And a lot of people wish that they could have that freedom, that they could have that courage to change, but they can't, because they feel weighed down by their responsibilities or the roles that they have allowed themselves to play for long enough. But Geminis are just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to switch up like a Gemini would. So yeah, I think that it's a positive thing. Change is a positive thing. Allowing yourself to evolve and grow and switch up when you need to, do it. If you're a Taurus, like it would behoove you to switch up sometimes. If you're a Scorpio and Aquarius, any of the fixed signs, if you're a Capricorn and you've always done things in the same exact way forever because these are the rules, switch it up, right? This is my rant about switching up and why people hate Geminis. They hate them because Geminis are courageous and they're brave and they're bold and they don't care. And people hate that because they can't do it themselves. So that's what I got for you today. I'm getting ready to make another video right now. You see what I'm doing? I made a video while I was getting ready, and now I'm going to go make the other video. Isn't that so genius? I think it's genius. Whoever came up with this concept is a genius. So I'll see you in the next video.